This is where you put the water in, and then the water sits here. What is happening? Ah! Hi there, Michelle here, also known as Fancy Dinosaur Tea Party, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to attempt to make a shirt. Sewing videos that I've done in the past. I've made a sweater out of a blanket. I've made a jacket kind of thing, also out of a blanket. And I made a bunch of dresses. Well, today's different. Today, I'm going to attempt to make a button-down shirt or a button-up shirt. I know there's a difference. I don't know the difference at the moment. I've never attempted to make anything like this, mainly because buttons, well, I wouldn't say they terrify me, but I would say that they cause me great distress because I am so nervous about actually putting buttons on something and completely messing it up. And that is why I'm making this video today, to conquer that fear of putting buttons on a garment. Have I done buttons like on, say, like a back of a dress as a closure? Yeah, that's fine. But actually doing buttons like, say, like this top here, that's what I'm worried about. The top that I'm actually going to do today is called the Clay Blouse, and it is from Mood Fabrics, and it is a site where you can actually buy fabric and buy things for sewing, but also they do give you some free patterns. So if you want to make this top after you see me try and attempt, and maybe I made it great, maybe I didn't make it so great, but if you want to do it, I will be linking the site where you can download and print off this pattern if you desire to also make it. These are half the pieces. When you print them out, it's like this. I think there's 29 pages of printouts, and most of them look like this. Some of them are just blank because it's the middle of the shirt. But yeah, most of them kind of look like this, where it has all the lines and then you just have to cut out your line. What is great about this pattern is there's a page here. It goes from size 00 to size 32, and I'm going to be doing the size 10-12. This pattern I feel is very beginner friendly, besides the buttons, okay? Take the buttons away from this project and this is actually pretty beginner friendly, but putting the buttons in might not be so beginner friendly. I want to say that this video is kind of a tutorial video, but it also isn't a tutorial video. Like, I'll show you what I'm doing, but I don't think I'm gonna go in so in depth like a normal tutorial that I would do, say, for like my crocheting videos. I think this is more me trying to figure out how to make this, and then if I do it successfully, maybe I'll make another one that's more in depth of step by step by step. Whereas this one, yes, you will get some steps, but you might not get the full process. Just please keep that in mind. In this project, you actually can do front pockets. I'm not 100% sure I'm gonna do the front pockets. One, like this shirt that I'm wearing right now, I thrifted it a few years ago. There's no pockets in the front, and I'm fine with that. Don't put anything in my pockets. It's just a nice little touch detail if I want to put it in. And I'm going to decide on the pockets once I'm done. It's more me being like, oh, this project was actually quite easy. I have some time to put some pockets in. Or it's going to be like, this project broke me. There's no way in hell I'm putting pockets in this. So we'll see when this is put together whether or not I'm adding pockets. So if you follow me on my TikTok, I've been going through a bunch of random sewing machine accessories, a lot of different feet for it. I think I did like a ruffler foot. I tried to do a spoon hammer foot. That was a disaster. But one of the best ones was me figuring out how to use a buttonhole maker. This is a game changer. This is it. It is a Kenmore. I love my Kenmore sewing machine, and it's just great that I have a buttonhole maker that is also Kenmore. Also, this looks like a sleek car from the 1950s. I don't know, that's just the vibe it's giving me. This might look like a men's shaver. It is not. It attaches to the foot of your sewing machine, and then it creates the buttonhole for you, and then you just have to cut the slit in between like the little zigzags it does. This was surprisingly easy to use once I learned how to attach it properly. It was attaching it that took a little bit, but after doing that, this was a breeze. I absolutely loved it, and I highly suggest if you are an avid sewer, pick up one of these. I completely forgot to show you what fabric I'm using. This is the fabric that I'm actually going to be using for the top. I did thrift it. It was the whole reason why I did a thrift haul the other day, was for me to go out and find some really cute fabrics. I did find two other fabrics that were really, really cute, but the one was just so similar to something that I already owned that I didn't need like two shirts the same thing. Then I went to the bedsheet section and I found this darling vintage bedsheet, which is just So cute. And this is what I'm gonna make the shirt out of. I absolutely love it. When it comes to buttons, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, which will probably be tomorrow or the end of today. Without further ado, let's get right into putting that other half of the pattern together so I can kind of show you how I do that. And then we'll get into cutting out the pattern pieces, sewing it together, doing the buttons, yada, yada, yada. And then hopefully we'll have a shirt at the end of this. I should say we will have a shirt at the end of this. Whether or not it's good, that's the question. The second page, it actually does give you a list of all the sizes, and you have to go and measure your bust, your waist, and your hips in order to find out what size you are. I'm a size 10, 12, so I'll be cutting out anything that has those lines. What I find really helps me out is once I find my size, I go to each piece, I find that corresponding line, and then I highlight it with a marker. That way when I'm going through, I just need to cut anything that is purple. I used a purple mild lighter. I love these so much. Very faintly on the page, it does print out the letter number combo that tells you where it will be getting taped to. There we go. The back piece is done, and for the back piece you actually need to fold the fabric in half and then cut out one of this, and when you unfold it you'll have your right and left side of the back. So all my pieces are now taped together, and now I can start cutting them out. It is day 2. Last night I finished putting together the pieces. They do look identical, but the front piece here actually has the space where you have to put your buttons and your buttonholes, whereas this does not have this here. This is for the collar. I've only actually put a collar in one time, and that was like that quilt jacket that I made like well over a year ago. So there is the pattern piece for this, and you have to cut 2, and you have to cut it on the fold. And then I also have the pockets that I have to cut out, but again, we're gonna wait to the end of this project to see if I even wanna do the pockets. I think the first thing to do is I have to go to the fabric store and buy some buttons to start this project, because I don't know what size button it is, and I can't make this and do the buttonholes without knowing what buttons I'm using. So, to the fabric store. I picked out these buttons here. These were the last 2 of this type in the store. They were $2.20 each, but because I have the Fabricland card, which I realized that it expires in like 2 weeks, which means I'm gonna have to renew it, these were actually 50% off. I basically just paid for 1 pack of buttons. So now that I got the buttons, I can go home and start working on the shirt. I'm back from the fabric store. So these are the buttons that I picked. I was gonna go with some like funkier ones to match this. I was kind of thinking maybe orange to match the flowers, and I was thinking maybe green if I mess up, and these are like bright buttons. People are gonna look at them. Whereas if they're just these simple ones, they're almost like a very light tortoiseshell kind of button. And I think that these buttons would look really cute because they would kind of blend in, but they're still cute on their own, that I like them for this project. Yeah, so I think it's time to cut out the pieces. Yeah, just cut out the pieces and then we'll figure out the buttons after the pieces are cut out. So I just have enough on the bottom so that way I don't have to do a hem to do this, and it's folded over. It's like just enough to do the back piece, which blows my mind. So I'm gonna cut the back piece out now. I have all the pieces cut out. So this is the back piece, and then I have the right side, the left side done, and then I cut out the 2 collar pieces. So what's gonna happen is that they're gonna get like sandwiched together and then sewn up. I have pretty much 3/4 of this bed sheet that I can still do things with. Like, you cannot buy this amount of fabric at a fabric store for that. Like, for what I cut out, if I were to buy this say at Fabricland, it probably would have cost me $20, if not more, worth of fabric just for the pieces that I had cut out. I paid $6 and I still have this much left. Like technically I probably could make 2 more shirts out of this fabric. That is how much I still have. Like I could make a dress, which I might make one of those ruffle dresses eventually, but not now. That's done. I think they give you some instructions on the website. They don't give all of it. I was looking at it and they didn't even really tell you how to make the button part, and I'm like, shouldn't that be like the one thing that you include in the directions, is how and where to place the buttons? Reading this, it tells me to put interfacing on. I don't own interfacing, and I don't think I'm gonna put it in. Now that everything is pinned, I'm gonna take it to the sewing machine and sew these up before starting my next steps. So what I ended up doing is I punched holes in here where the buttons are supposed to go. So I think I'm gonna take a scrap piece of fabric, maybe this scrap piece of fabric here. Also, that would actually be really good for pockets. You know what? No, this I might make into pockets because it has that really nice edge to it. Okay, I'll use this piece. So I'm just gonna quickly go to the machine and test this little fabric here and see if it works. Okay, so what I ended up doing is I got a water soluble pen. I think that's what it's called. So it comes off in water, and I decided to do that. And I'm gonna put my needle down. We're gonna do a button. So this should be exciting. So that is one buttonhole done. All right, I had to change my top. The sweater was, it was getting a little toasty in here, so I changed my wardrobe. Anywho, I put the buttonholes in. It did take me a while because my machine was acting up and I'm like, oh no, did I mess up the tension? Because I did adjust my bobbin the other day. You have to be very careful when you adjust your bobbin because your bobbin does have tension on it, but you really could mess it up. Warning you, if you mess with the tension of your bobbin, there will be consequences. It just turned out my needle was dull. I haven't switched out my needle in a while. Thank goodness it was just the needle because I had a spare one. So I put the 4 in. The one is here. Think I am gonna put a 5th button in just where it's hitting me down on my stomach. I think I'm gonna need it. And then all I have to do is take my snips, cut in between the lines of the button. I'm gonna add another button down here before I take my buttonhole maker off my machine, and then I'm gonna pin everything together. Okay, it is now day 3. I was like this close of finishing my project yesterday, but again, this is not a sewing project unless you make at least a couple mistakes. In my case, I made kind of a big mistake, but it's very easy to like fix. And I spilled my iron on the project. You may be like, how do you spill an iron on your project? Well, this is where you put the water in, and then the water sits here. What is happening? And the steam comes out. My iron is not the best and I need to get a new one. Also, I would love to get one of those little like mini irons. Anywho, so now my item is wet. Great. So what I did yesterday was I sewed all the parts on, but I don't like reading instructions. That's my downfall. Problem is that I was actually supposed to do French seams. It's my first time ever doing a French seam too, so. Normally for a seam, as you can see, you put the 2 good sides together and you sew it up, and then you end up with all of this kind of here. This is the French seam, as you can see. It looks pretty good. This is the outside. And then the inside, it looks like this. So that's the French seam, and there's no fraying. I don't have to worry about it. I think all I have to do is press this down. But yeah, so it's not looking too bad. So what I do have to do, unfortunately, have to take this part of the arm off. Let's take this apart and get this project going again. To do the French seam, you need to lay your garment out the way that you would wear it. Okay, so we're gonna have the inside piece facing the inside piece. Ow, that went into my finger. Oh. Back to regular scheduled programming. I literally just put the pin right through my finger, and now I have to have a band-aid. I'm going to sew it here, and then sew it here, and then I'm going to come back, and we'll go on to the next step. So now that it's sewn on this, what I have to do is I have to get that pesky iron out, and I have to press them to one side, and then flip it inside out, and then iron again. Just kind of make sure that it's flat like that, and down. I'm going to cut some of this excess off. This is the good side. So when you fold it inside out, right here is that seam, and when I stitch it, I'm gonna hide it, and it's gonna look like that. Collar time. Fold the collar, kind of like that, and then you sandwich the shirt in between the collar. Okay, so now I'm going to just iron these flat. I guess I forgot to film this, but what I ended up doing was I folded over the ends of the sleeves twice and then hemmed it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold them once, and then I'm going to fold them one more time. It's like this, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pin, I'm going to put it down here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm not actually going to sew this like that. I'm not too sure if I want to or not, so I'm not going to sew it like that. All I'm going to do is I'm going to hand stitch a few stitches up here and then a few stitches down here, and then maybe iron this flat a little bit, but that's the look that I'm going for. All right, so now it's time to put the buttons in. I laid it down just like this, and then I have this marker here, which is, it's a water erasable pen, which is fantastic. That's lined up here, and that's lined up down there, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a dot. Even if this, say, like, marker didn't erase, the button's gonna cover it up anyways. So the same thread that I used to sew everything up, I'm going to use to attach all these buttons. And I'm just going to attach them by hand. And then after I've attached all the buttons, I think I'm gonna go and just clean up any loose threads, cut them off, and then I should be good to go. And the shirt is done. I'm pleasantly surprised of how easy this project was. I mean, there was a few bumps along the road, but I mean, for my first shirt, not that bad. Not that bad. I am wearing an undershirt underneath here because it is a little sheer. I think most bed sheets are a little bit sheer. I think this is really cute. I mean, it looks just as good as any other shirt I own. Like I said, there was a few bumps along the road, and I'm just gonna quickly go over that. So if you wanna make this, maybe you'll learn from my mistakes. Again, this wasn't like a step-by-step tutorial. It was me figuring out if I can make this shirt, and if I can make it and learn from the errors of my ways, then I can actually do a proper step-by-step tutorial once I know what I'm doing. But I thought it would just be fun just to do a video about me trying to make a shirt, and apparently I did okay. So a few things. I can cut out a pattern most of the time, but when it comes to like seam allowances and stuff like that, that's where I fall off the wagon. Don't get back on. The collar fit on it perfectly when I had first put it together, and that's when I realized I had to do that French seam. And then when I did that, I think I did a bit too much of a French seam, and because of it, the collar didn't line up perfectly. There's a little bit of an overlap on here, and then over here it goes kind of right into the collar. Another thing is the pocket situation. I didn't do one. I didn't feel like doing one. I just didn't think that it needs a pocket. I mean, the pocket does add like a cute little detail, but that's just like one more detail that I could mess up and then ruin the shirt, so I just opted out of that. I did take a shortcut, not a big shortcut, bottom part, so like this part here, I didn't have to hem it because it was already hemmed because it was a bed sheet. So I didn't have to do that step at the bottom, although if I had to do that step, I don't think it would have taken that long anyways. I didn't have to do it, and that's another perk of buying bed sheets, is because sometimes stuff's already done for you. I give this project probably an 8 out of 10. I think this turned out really, really well. So yeah, I'm definitely gonna make this again. And if you really want me to do a step-by-step in-depth tutorial on how to make this, please let me know in the comments below, because I probably do wanna make more of these shirts. And if you wanna see me do it, then I will film myself making more shirts. I think that will do it for this video. If you're new to my channel, like sewing, crafting, but mainly thrifting, why not subscribe? You can also follow me on my Instagram and my TikTok, which is Fancy Dinosaur Tea Party. I think that is it, so y'all have a good day now.